Today, we will be learning about graphic design. So, today, we will be focusing on number 1, number 2, and number 3. So we will focus on what is graphic design, graphic designers, and types of graphic design. Digital design is like painting, except the paint never dries, by Neville Brody. What is graphic design? What do you guys think graphic design is? Graphic design is a combination of art and technology. It is the discipline of visual communication and presentation, and it is used to create and combine symbols, images, and/or words to create a visual representation of ideas and messages. You need to write down this slide if you are taking notes. Graphic designers. Graphic designers design items for companies that hire them. Before starting the design process, they ask themselves, what is the goal of the design? How do they want the eye to flow over the design? And who is the audience? So a company will hire a graphic designer to make different items for them, to design these items. So they actually get paid to do this. Here are some colleges that have graphic design programs. If you are taking notes, you need to pick at least 3 and write them down. These colleges are all located in Kansas. Do you remember one college that has a graphic design program? Graphic design examples. So some examples of graphic design that a graphic designer might make. The very first one is visual identities. Visual identities deals with brands. So these are the visual elements of a brand identity that act as the face of a brand to communicate those intangible qualities through images, shapes, and color. You need to write down visual identities and brands. So you are writing visual identities and the definition of visual identities. So visual identities deals with brands, kind of like logos. Marketing and advertisement. Companies hire graphic designers to engage with people based on the wants, needs, awareness, and satisfaction they have about a product, service, or brand. So these deal more with products. Take a moment to review the 2 examples we just went over. User interface graphic design, or UI. UI focuses on the user's visual experience and the design of on-screen graphic elements, such as buttons, menus, micro interactions, and more. So an example would be some of the buttons that you might have on certain apps. A graphic designer was hired to create those buttons. Publication graphic design. These graphic designers specialize in publications work with editors and publishers to create layouts, with carefully selected typography and accompanying artwork, which includes photography, graphics, and illustration. So they deal with books. Take a moment to review those two examples we just went over. The last three examples. The first one is packaging graphic design. So packaging designers create concepts, develop mock-ups, and create print-ready files for a product. So an example would be a lotion bottle. More than likely, a graphic designer developed that design. Motion graphic design. These are graphics that are in motion, so they move. Just like this one does. Environmental graphic design. This type of graphic design visually connects people to places to improve their overall experience by making spaces more memorable, interesting, informative, or easier to navigate. So in the examples shown on this slide, this graphic designer made sure that they were making the space interesting and informative, and therefore making it easier to navigate to which floor people were on or needed to go to. Take a moment to review those three examples we just went over. That concludes the end of our presentation. We now will be beginning to design a graphic design poster. So, your job is to pick one example of the graphic design examples, and you are going to make a poster using canva.com. Your poster must include the name of the design example, the definition of what that designer does, and an example of what that design would look like. So if it was packaging, you could draw a product and design a label. We will be using canva.com, so you will be able to search for different elements. And lastly, I want you to make it interesting to look at. So think about the organization of how you are laying out your poster.